Welcome back. You're watching ED Insight. SMEs in India are grappling with an acute shortage of labor. But that's just the tip of the iceberg. For years, they've been bogged down with a far bigger challenge, and that is the lack of skilled manpower. So how severe is the skill crisis, and is there an easy way out? Asha Gopalakrishnan finds out.
Helpers, welders, engineers, managers and maintenance operators. The most sought after people by India's $5 billion SME sector. But these workers are becoming rarer by the day, and entrepreneurs are struggling to fill these vacancies.
10 months back, I also started employing of contract level or Bihari, Orissa, but I'm not happy with them because I have very sophisticated machinery here, CNC machines, all CNC machines. They are not fit for that.
In the foundries and forgings, normally manpower shortage is there, but in our industry it is severe.
The sector that's worst hit by the skill shortage is the auto components industry. According to the National Skill Development Corporation or NSDC and IMACS, the sector faces a severe skill gap at most levels in the production cycle. Let's start from the lowest level. An operator or workman should have the ability to operate and maintain both general and special machines and perform operations requiring multiple skills, like a fitter being able to do the duties of an auto electrician. But that's not the case with the workmen in India. The lack of skill spills over higher up in the organizational structure too. A shop head in India is poorly equipped and has little or no knowledge about automobiles, subsystems and functions of important parts like suspension, exhaust, fuel system, etc. Ditto with supervisors, who display a lack of understanding about product lines and platforms, have little knowledge about electrical and electronic systems and are unaware of concepts such as Six Sigma, JIT, TQM, Kaizen and 5S. The skill shortage was not such a big problem a decade ago because Indian auto ancillaries were tiny units then. But today they compete in the global market and service multinational giants. So the acute skill gap poses some serious challenges.
Today we have a huge concern at the middle management level where honestly people move very quickly either within the auto sector or to other verticals which are more lucrative.
India's textile sector, which boasts of exports of $22.41 billion, is spinning a similar tale. According to a report by IMACS, the projected human resource requirement in the sector is expected to touch about 16.79 million by 2022, of which nearly 80% are production jobs. 85% of the target labor requirement is for the level 1 to handle simple tasks like machine operations, knitting, cutting, stitching and sewing. Another 10% is for the second level complex operations and supervision, and the balance for core technical specialized jobs. But India's textile sector, which employs about 33 million people, has seen its level 1 and level 2 workforce shrink sharply these past few months.
They lack the ability to understand the customer's requirement and translate it to an organizational requirement. For example, if the customer wants the supplies of goods or services in a particular order, how should the procurement skills of the organization be done? What kind of staffing should they have on the front line and back end to support them? Those are skill sets that SMEs lack.
Lacking skill sets is one part of the story. The complete lack of interest in acquiring skill sets is the bigger problem. And that reflects in the number of industrial training institutes and the courses they offer. India has just 153 recognized industrial training courses. An additional 150 vocational education training courses are conducted by 15 ministries under the Government of India. But the turnout for these courses is abysmal. Globally, there are nearly 2,945 vocational education training courses, which break up into 15,000 detailed modules. In countries like USA, Japan and China, nearly 60 to 90% of the youth are learning some sort of VET course. In Germany, 65% of the workforce are VET qualified. In Austria, it is as high as 80%. In comparison, India has just 10 to 20% of its population enrolling for higher education, and just 2 to 3% of that enrolls for formal VET courses. What makes matters worse is the fact that VET or industrial training courses are old and archaic and out of sync with the needs of the industry.
The academia needs to try and understand how what the requirements of the industry are, update their curriculum, update the facilities that they do have. Infrastructural spending needs to increase.
These same people are also required in other industries. So the total number of graduates coming each year to the total requirement of the country, there is a shortage.
To be fair, the government has been taking initiative to provide skill training through its National Skill Development Corporation or NSDC, which caters to the needs of almost 21 sectors like textiles, automobiles, engineering, etc. It has a goal to skill 150 million people by 2020. But in order to do that, it must train about 40 million people every year. But as of now, NSDC trains only 4.3 million people per year. But NSDC is hopeful of meeting the target via the public-private partnership or PPP model. The institution has stated that it wants to partner with 25 private sector players to set up large-scale training facilities over the next few years.
Various government departments have public-private partnership schemes for skilling people, let's say in the urban areas below the poverty line or in the rural areas below the poverty line or in the sector of textiles. These also PPP models are where industry is bringing in their management expertise, bringing in 25% of the cost involved and also training and placing these people.
For instance, 2 months ago, NSDC tied up with Evron Education for launching International Skills School. The school will impart skill training through 271 development centers across the country over the next 12 years.
The mandate with NSDC is to skill 15 crore people over the next 10 years. Evron has been mandated to skill 10% of it, that is 1.5 crore people is what Evron Skill NSDC will do in the next 10 years.
NSDC has struck similar deals with the likes of Bharti Group subsidiary Centum, Kolkata-based Globison Group and ILNFS. Several other private players also have joined the skills training bandwagon in the past few months. For instance, Educomp and Pearson have set up India Can to train over 5 lakh persons ready to deploy to the industry annually by 2012. And UK-based City and Guilds and Manipal Education have set up India Skills to certify and train 1 million people by 2015. And Team Lease has tied up with several state governments to impart vocational and skill training to 1.5 lakh people over the next few years.
We have multiple projects right now happening across Karnataka, Haryana, Gujarat, different other states that we are in dialogue with. Now, all of them are primarily focused around the aspect of saying there's an element of training required, there's an element of a market linkage that needs to be taken care of.
The entry of the private sector in skill development is good news for India because skill development will finally be in line with the needs of the industry. But that also means that in a few years, skilled labor will not come cheap. That's a worrying point for SMEs because they will have to deal with qualified but more expensive skilled labor even as they grapple with the lack of unskilled labor, which is the largest chunk of their workforce.
So how is the retreating workforce adding value back home? That and more is coming up after this short break. Don't go away.